I thoroughly hope you are enjoying our series on how to move from the therapy room to the consulting practice. But this video is the one that I have been so excited to make for you, because today we're going to talk about 4 mistakes that will cost you money as you're adding consulting to your practice, and most importantly, how you can avoid those. Now, we have talked a lot about how consulting can be a very profitable addition to your counseling practice. But people often make a few mistakes that prevents this from being something that is sustainable and profitable for their practice. So I'm going to give you some tips based upon a few things I've done wrong and what other people I know have done wrong, and what instead makes a huge impact in the right direction. So the number one mistake that I made early on in my consulting practice is charging by the hour. Now, I know we are used to charging by the hour, but here's why that's not always the best thing. Oftentimes when you're charging by the hour, people try to either minimize the number of hours you get to save money, or they try to maximize the number of hours that they get in order to feel like they got as much value as possible. So what you want to charge by is the solution, right? So on a rare occasion, I will include an hourly expectation or estimate with what I'm providing, but I always will say approximately or up to. I don't ever want to be pigeonholed into a particular number of hours. The only time I'll use that kind of framework is when I'm offering on-site EAP services or something to that effect. But in general, I never allow myself to be pigeonholed into a specific number of hours, because it really limits what you're able to do and what you're able to offer. And the way you want to think about it is consulting is about conveying value, right? Not just your time. It's not just about thinking about how much time you can provide. It's about transformation. It's about solutions. And so you shouldn't ever be penalized for your ability to provide these solutions in less hours. So you want to charge by the solution that you're offering and not by the hour. Now, the second thing you want to make sure you're not doing is talking like a therapist, okay? When you go into these corporate spaces, even when they actually care about the mental health and well-being of their staff members or clients or whomever you might be working with, you want to make sure that you're not using too much jargon and diagnostic codes and kind of technical codes. You want to make sure you're speaking in the terms that they would be using as they describe things. Now, there are times when I might say something like, we provide trauma-informed care support, right? That might make sense if I'm working with an organization where they are specifically serving clients who have a high trauma exposure. But very often, I'm going to say something different. I might say, we offer tools for managing high-stress environments. I'm also going to make sure that I'm talking about their key performance indicators. So, for example, I might say, we help organizations reduce turnover because of the cost it takes to onboard new staff members. That's something that they can understand whether they've ever been to a counseling session or not. Now, this is a common one that can really cost you. When you are positioning yourself as a solution, when you're creating a proposal, when you're drafting what you're going to offer, you want to make sure that you are clear and concrete and not vague or offering everything and the kitchen sink. A lot of times, because we want to give people a great value, because that's just kind of our heart, we want to make sure we give them everything, single thing they can need. We want to throw everything at people. But for most people, that feels super overwhelming, and they end up getting confused, which makes them not make a decision. So you want to be super clear on what you offer and make sure that it only includes maybe 1 or 2 deliverables. You can add like options if you want to, but the more options you add, the more often people are going to say, well, why do I need that? Or why don't I need that? And then you get into having to do too much explaining, and then they'll get overwhelmed and confused. So you want to look at their problems and say, in the best case scenario, this is what I would offer you. And you want to list what you think they need. You might, and I have offered this, a second option. Hey, if this is not within your budget, this is something that's going to give you a little bit more room for you to do some work internally, but I think it would also give you a great foundation. You never want to give them this whole menu offering of things that they can choose from. Now, I do have a menu of services, but I don't show that to them. I have that in my, kind of Rolodex, because when I'm getting ready to make the proposal, I want to make it as quickly and as simply as possible. So that might be something you have internally, but To them, what you're going to offer them is the one, maybe two options of a solution that you think will will authentically solve their problems. Do not offer them so many things that they get confused or overwhelmed, because that's going to cost you the sale. If I would have known this one, I would have saved myself a lot of time and a lot of energy. But I'm giving it to you for free because I want you to win in the consulting game. This mistake is talking to the wrong person. There are lots of people who may meet you in different places, but they have absolutely no authority to hire you and give you a check. Your introduction to the organization might be a social worker that you meet on a listserv, or that you meet at a workshop or a networking event. However, the person who's going to sign that check is not generally going to be that person. So you want to make sure that you ask them, who else should we include in this consultation? Who else should we include on this call? Who's a decision maker for this side of the budget? You want to know who that person is, because when you're in communication with that person, it's going to save you the time and the hassle of having to have consultations and conversations over and over again without getting paid. All of those extra conversations, they actually eat into your profit. So you want to make sure that you know who the decision maker is and that you're pitching them directly. In general, the people who you're going to work with, especially if you're offering consulting, EAP services, those type of things, they're going to be someone who is in control or has authority over the wellness budget or the staff development budget. It might be a CEO, it might be the HR manager. And I know what I'm talking about because it was not that long ago, a few years ago, where I had a conversation with someone who I'd worked with previously. She literally called me and said, hey, I think you'd be perfect for this opportunity that we have in the organization. I met with her. I met with another person. Neither one of them was the decision maker. When I actually met with the decision maker, we had a conversation. I tried to get him to make a decision because at this point we had probably 2, maybe 3 meetings. I had already sent over a proposal, and we had this extra meeting to kind of get any questions that he had answered, and he never would actually make the decision. So I probably spent 4 hours and got no money from that contract at all. Now, I'm actually happy about that because in general, I don't think that was the right fit for me. I know I could have came in and provided a great service for them, but I don't think the organization climate was actually ready for transformation. But if you get into these situations where you're having repeated conversations that don't turn into profit, ultimately the consulting won't actually be a profitable offering for you. It actually will drain your budget because it's taking what little time you actually do have and wasting it on meaningless conversations. So make sure that you're having those conversations with decision makers often. Now, I know I have just saved you some time and I've probably made you some money, but if you say, hey, Kathleen, I would love to have you help me craft my offer list to be super clear and concrete on who is the right person specifically for me to talk to for the services that I want to offer. I would love to help you draft that. Click the link below this video and sign up for your consultation.